I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but that just wouldn't be our style.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
SportsTownChicago.com. Lombard, part of the Be On Air network and available on the TuneIn app.
Hell yeah.
Broadcast home for your Windy City Bulls and the Chicago Dogs. We're in a league of our own. Now, here's your SportsTownChicago.com scoreboard update.
At 5 o'clock on Tuesday, September 17th, I am your host, Mike Napolitano, with your SportsTownChicago.com update, powered by the Illinois Media School. If you are interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. The Cubs are at home tonight to face Oakland at 6:40 p.m. Chicago got the 9-2 win last night in the first of 3 games against the Athletics and improved their win streak to 2 games. Game 2 tonight will be a matchup between Mitch Spence and Jordan Wicks. Spence is 7-9 with a 4.33 ERA and has 113 strikeouts in 137 1/3 innings pitched, as well as a 1.35 WHIP. Wicks is 2-3 for the Chicago side. He has 38 strikeouts in 41 innings pitched and a 5.27 ERA to accompany a 1.61 WHIP. The Cubs are 77-73. and 39-33 at home this year. Oakland is 65-86 and 29-47 on the road. Cubs are currently 5 games out of the NL wildcard spot, that final one, and 10 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers for the NL Central Division lead. First pitch is at 6:40 p.m. at Wrigley, but if you aren't in attendance, you can watch this one on Marquee Sports Network or listen along on AM 670 The Score. The Kane County Cougars are in Game 3 of the Miles Wolff Cup Finals tonight in the American Association of Professional Baseball. The Cougars are a perfect 6-0 in these playoffs after knocking off the Lake Country Dockhounds in a best-of-3 in round 1, and then doing the same to the Chicago Dogs in round 2, as well as taking the first 2 games at home against the Winnipeg Goldeyes in this best-of-5 championship series. Tonight's matchup takes the series to Blue Cross Park in Winnipeg, Canada, for the first of a possible 3 more games, as the Cougars look to close things out with a ring and a trophy. First pitch is on Flow Baseball at 6:30 p.m. But this has been your SportsTownChicago.com update, brought to you by the Illinois Media School. If you're interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com.
Here to center for Taves. He got a breakaway. Taves to win the game. Hawks win. Hawks win. Jonathan Taves.
It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown.
Call your sons, call your daughters, call your friends, call your neighbors. Mark Burley has a perfect game going to the ninth.
Trying to get open, fires away. Fire! It's over. The Bulls win at the buzzer.
Wayne Wise makes the catch. What a play by Wise. Mercy. He got on. 1 to go.
Keeps it clean. 2-on-1. Hudson back to point. Upper shot. Open. Chicago with the lead. The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship, and it's their 2nd three-peat.
Alexei. Yes. 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 History.
To the net, they score! It's in! They score! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup!
A ground ball past Jenks up the middle of the infield. Uribe has it. He throws.
Out! Out! A White Sox winner and a world championship! The White Sox have won the World Series, and they're mobbing each other on the field!
Binnington Kurashev plays the rebound for Bedard down low.
Bedard! Lacrosse style scores! Unbelievable! Connor Bedard!
Dude, that was insane.
Right back in here on another Tuesday. We are finally back on the video stream. A couple of technical difficulties these past couple weeks, but hopefully we are good for the duration of today's show, which will be, as always, 1 hour. But before we jump into that hour of sports talk, let's get you caught up on everywhere you can find myself and SportsTownChicago.com and the Illinois Media School on social media. That's X and Instagram for both of those two, and myself. That's Mike Napolitano on X, Mike_Napolitano on Instagram, and Mike Napolitano 5 on Snapchat. We have a lot of news to get into. First, our football segment. We've got the Bears. We forgot to even mention the week 2 matchup last week as the show was going so much into the NFL news league-wide that we were trying to cover, but it was primetime Sunday Night Football against the Houston Texans for this Bears squad. And the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud are a tough opponent, but the Bears, they held their ground for most of this game. It was just a lot of holes in that offensive line as usual for this Chicago end of things. This was Houston's home opener though, so of course they were going to come out and try to play their best game. After one quarter, it was tied at 3, both teams settling for field goals, but then it was Houston that would take over in the second quarter with a touchdown and a field goal to extend their lead to 10 points, a 13-3 scoreline. The Bears would answer back with a Khalil Herbert 2-yard run. We're going to get a chance to listen to that audio here as the Bears score their first offensive touchdown of the season. Of course, last week was all the defense picking things up and getting into the end zone for this Chicago side of things. But this week it was the Bears offense finding a way to get into the end zone. And have a listen to this Khalil Herbert 2-yard run.
It's a give to the end zone. Herbert, touchdown, Chicago Bears. So the 4-year veteran Herbert runs it in around the edge. And the Bears take advantage of the good field position to get right back in on a touchdown pass.
So that was the audio from the NBC Sports broadcast Sunday night as Khalil Herbert gets the Bears' first offensive touchdown of the year. The kick from Cairo Santos is good, so it's only a 3-point game. However, just before the half, it's the Houston Texans' Ka'imi Fairbairn scoring a 59-yard field goal to extend their lead to 6. No scoring in the third quarter. Both teams held their own, especially on defense. But in the fourth quarter, both teams were able to kick a field goal, but it wasn't enough. A 53-yarder from the Texans, a 54-yarder from Cairo Santos. The Bears had to settle for that because otherwise they were going to either give up the ball or run out of time. And that, unfortunately, is what happened. The last drive from the offense at the end of the game ran out of time and ran out of downs. And this Bears offense struggling to find that time for Caleb Williams in the pocket, struggling to find receivers, and struggling to work their way down the field. A 19-13 final score. Texans are now 2-0, 1-0 at home. As I said, this was their home opener. Bears are now 1-1, 0-1 on the road. And I think most people thought that this was going to be a loss for this Bears squad. And, you know, it's not far-fetched to imagine that this team could go 2-2 to start the season. I think that's where everybody was kind of predicting that this Bears team to be. As of right now, they're tied for, well, second or last, however you want to look at it, in the NFC North. Minnesota is the only undefeated team, and I don't think anybody saw that coming, especially with the number of injuries that the Vikings have sustained, including wide receiver Justin Jefferson this past week. So, I mean, the injury list just gets longer for this Viking squad, yet they are still undefeated. Detroit is now 1-1, and Green Bay got their first win this past weekend as well. So Chicago sitting with the rest of the NFC North at perfect 500. They have one more point for than they have against. So this Bears team is pretty much straight up a 500 team. And they will have to take that into this next week against the Indianapolis Colts. That is a noon game this Sunday on CBS. The Colts are 0-2 and 0-1 at home looking to get their first win here. When we look up at this matchup, there's a lot of injuries on both sides. Not sure if they're going to be ready by Sunday, but 4 questionable players for the Bears. That's Keenan Allen, wide receiver, Zach Pickens, defensive tackle, Amen Ogbagbominga, the linebacker, and Kari Blasingame, he is a fullback. Then you also have on the full IR center Ryan Bates. That was back on October 13th, so just last week. He didn't play in that game against the Houston Texans. On the Indianapolis Colts side of things, they have just as many injuries. I'm not going to go fully through them, but this could be a very evenly matched game despite the Colts being 0-2. They're hungry for that first win, and the Bears are on the road. They are 0-1 on the road. This game is at Lucas Oil Stadium, as I said, on CBS at noon. So tune in for that one, and let's hope the Bears can pull themselves above 500 for a week, because then that next week they're playing the Los Angeles Rams. Now the Rams are 0-2 as well. They've started their whole season on the road, so they haven't gotten to play at home yet. They will, I believe, this week, as they have, yes, a home game against the San Francisco 49ers. So there's a good possibility that this Rams team could be 0-3 when the Bears get to see them in 2 weeks. So I would say, if you are the Chicago Bears, one of these two games needs to be a win for this Chicago side of things. And this offense really has to get going. You know, a lot of it can be the fact that Caleb Williams is still a rookie, but I think a lot more of it is the fact that he's not getting enough time in that pocket. I mean, we saw it week 1 against the Tennessee Titans, where guys were just running right up the middle and finding Caleb Williams pretty much as soon as the ball is snapped back to him. So if it wasn't for a Will Levis injury in that second half and the defense being able to pick up points for this Chicago side of things, that could have been a loss as well. We talked about it being 17-3 at halftime. At one point, the Bears were down 17-0. They were able to come back and win that one 24-17, but not the way you want to be winning games, winning ugly for sure. They hold on for as long as they can against this Houston Texans team, but it's not enough. Houston was a playoff team last year and fully expected to be so again this year, so not too surprised on that front. But when we talk about football, we also have to talk about football. Chicago Fire were at Soldier Field this past weekend, while the Bears were not. Chicago was 6-8-14 with 26 points and still 14th in the Eastern Conference when they came into Saturday's matchup against the New York Red Bulls, who were 10-13-5 with 43 points and 4th in that same Eastern Conference on the table. But this was a 2-1 win for the Fire as they get back on track after losing their last 2 games. So back in the win column for this Fire squad, and they pick up a crucial 3 points against this Red Bulls team. Chicago is now 7-8-14 with 29 points. The 2 goals coming, one in the first half and one in the second half. That's a Tom Barlow strike at 31 minutes. And then the New York Red Bulls tied it up just after the half at the 47-minute mark. That was Dennis Jengar. And then Georgios Koustas with a seal of the game and the deal for the Chicago Fire in the 75th minute. So getting the job done late and keeping this season interesting for a team that I don't think has much of a chance of making playoffs, but you never know. They could go on a run. Their next game will be on the 18th. That is tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. You can watch that one on MLS Season Pass. This will be against the 7-8-13 Nashville SC. They have 29 points just like the Fire. And you can catch all that action, like I said, on MLS Season Pass, which I believe you can stream through, is it HBO Max? Well, Max, and then I believe Hulu as well. On the ladies' side of things, well, actually, before we get to that, I should note that Messi has returned to action as of this past Saturday in the MLS in Inter Miami CF's 3-1 win against the Philadelphia Union. So the superstar is back on the pitch for the table-leading Miami squad. Now for the ladies' side of things, we left off with the Red Stars at a 7-2-10 record with 23 points. They played Friday in Providence Park to face the 8-3-8 Portland Thorns. This was a 1-0 win over Portland, with the lone goal coming from Allie Schlegel early on in the game, the 16th minute. So Chicago is now 8-2-10 with 26 points on the year and 7th in the NWSL. Last week we had the Chicago Red Stars playing on Friday the 13th, spooky. Now we have them playing on the 21st night of September as they have an 8:30 p.m. start against Alex Morgan. Well, the Alex Morgan-less San Diego Wave. Last week we covered her retirement from the professional game and her emotional final game. The Wave are 4-7-9 with 19 points, and they won 2-1 against the Utah Royals this past week without Alex Morgan and without missing a beat. In fact, they actually lost the game that Morgan subbed out for the final time against the North Carolina Courage 4-1. That brings me to the Chicago Fire. Again, they also play on Saturday, September 21st. That is a 6:30 p.m. start time, and that is against CF Montreal. So the Chicago Fire have 2 games this week, both on the road, so a busy week for them. The Red Stars will be at home, though. This is a game at SeatGeek Stadium on Saturday, September 21st, as we said, 8:30 p.m. That's partly why Riot Fest got moved back to Douglas Park this weekend. But you can watch this game as the Red Stars hope to sweep the season series against the San Diego Wave. They won 3-0 the last time these two teams met back on June 28th. You can watch all the action on Ion TV. Well, a certain Chicagoland baseball team is moving in to the playoffs, but no, it's definitely not one of the MLB squads in this town. I have all of your Chicago White Sox, Chicago Cubs, and King County Cougars news right here on Mike on the Mic.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Mike. What day is it, Mike?
No, dude, it's Tuesday. It's time for Mike on the Mic.
Woo-hoo!
Right here on Sportstown Chicago and Twitch.
Hump day!
This is your home for sports. SportsTownChicago.com.
Joe's Hot Dogs has been around since 1953, but I promise it's not old news. You don't have to like hot dogs to like Joe's on Plainfield Road in Joliet. Italian beef, hot dogs, shakes, and sides. My family's had a relationship with Joe's Hot Dogs for 3 generations. Golden fries with a tad bit of salt and the perfect amount of crunch come in a bag as big as your hand. And that's just small. For more on the menu, visit joeshotdogsjoliet.com, bringing that classic Chicago flavor to the suburbs. That's Joe's Hot Dogs across from CVS on Plainfield Road in Joliet.
At the football game, Jim shows the telltale signs of being wasted. He starts flexing for the camera. He refers to his muscles as gunboats. He screams, "How's this for a halftime show?" Jim streaks the field.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many to drive. But what if you've had just one too many to drive? Never underestimate just a few. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Ad Council, and this station.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and Windy City News Radio.
The Illinois Center for Broadcasting is now the Illinois Media School. We've been an institution in the Chicagoland area now for 30 years. Because the broadcasting world is always changing, so are we. Not only are we teaching radio and television production, but now you can learn all aspects of the media industry, like web design. You can even specialize in TV or film, sports broadcasting, and even sales. No matter where you are in the Chicagoland area, we have a campus near you. The Illinois Media School. Be on TV, be on radio, beonair.com.
Maybe that was money. Tell me that wasn't money.
Yo, check us out. We are the go-to guys. I'm your boy Space.
I'm your boy MC.
Check us out every Thursday
from 4 to 5 p.m.
We spitting all facts, all sports, all day.
Yes, sir. Who else you gonna go to in the clutch?
Lillard, long range three, and it's good!
Keeping you up to date with all the latest sports news.
We are
the go-to guys.
Where else you gonna get all your sports news from?
You know,
SportsTownChicago.com.
St. Patrick's Day, the only day of the year that it's okay to not boo the Boston Celtics.
I will show you mercy.
SportsTownChicago.com.
What's up, sports fans? I'm Mike Napolitano, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic right here on SportsTownChicago.com and the TuneIn Radio app. Now back to the show. All right, so where we last left off with Chicago Cubs baseball, they had mirrored series with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Pittsburgh Pirates, and the New York Yankees. Both series, the Cubs dropped the first two games, but won the third game. That was including that combined no-hitter against the Pirates at home. So they had only won 2 of their last 6, and then won 1 against the Los Angeles Dodgers. So 3 of their last 7 when we last talked. Those remaining 2 games against the Dodgers, they did go the Cubs' way, at least one of them, 6-3, a Shota Imanaga win against the Dodgers in that marquee matchup game. And no, I'm not just saying it because it was on Marquee Sports. In fact, this one was actually nationally broadcast because of the pitching matchup. It was Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Shota Imanaga, and the Cubs get the better of the Dodgers in this one, and they win 6-3. Cubs and Dodgers both scored a run in the second. The Dodgers actually took the lead in the 4th and 5th with a run each, so it was a 3-1 game, but a huge 8th inning for the Cubs. They score 5 unanswered runs and go on to win this one 6-3. 6 runs on 10 hits and no errors. The Dodgers, 3 runs on 8 hits, 4 errors. You don't often see that in the stat column for this Los Angeles team. However, it helped the Cubs in that one. They did drop the final game of the series 10-8 against the Dodgers, but it was okay, right? Because the Cubs were going on another road trip over the weekend to Colorado to face the Rockies. And this isn't a very good Rockies team. However, the first 2 games were taken by Colorado. So games that this Cubs team that is looking to sneak into the last wild card spot really needed to win. You know, at this time of the year, every game is magnified. You only have so many left to get your wins. You really need to take advantage of those. A 9-5 loss on Friday and a 6-5 walk-off loss on Saturday. And the Cubs are down 2 to the Rockies. They did win the third one, but it is Doyle that lifts the Rockies over the Cubs 6-5 with that last inning. It was the 10th, and it was a single to left, which scored Shunk, and that was all the Rockies needed. So Cubs dropped the first 2, but they come back in the third game against the Rockies on Sunday. That was a Kyle Hendricks win, so he is now 4-11 on the season. Miller gets his first save on the year. In fact, it was funny when you look at saves in that last loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was Michael Kopech, former White Sox, getting his 13th save of the season. Yeah, he's doing real well out in Los Angeles. I'm sure White Sox fans are thrilled about that one, including myself. But Monday, the Cubs continued their win streak. They won that last game against Colorado. They came home last night to face the Oakland A's, and this was where the offense started to spring back into action for this Northside team. Shota Imanaga gets the win, 14-3 on the season, as the Cubs take a 9-2 victory against a struggling Athletics team. When you look at the breakdown, it was 1 run in the first, 5 in the second, which would have sealed the deal right there. Oakland came back and answered with 2 in the third, but the Cubs mirrored that. So it is an 8-2 game. They score 1 more in the fourth, and both teams wound up having goose eggs for the rest of this game. The Cubs win this one 9-2, 9 runs, 18 hits, no errors for the North Side. For Oakland, 2 runs on 9 hits and no errors. So that brings us to tonight's matchup, which we previewed at the start of this show, a 6:40 start between Jordan Wicks and Mitch Spence. That is in Wrigley. Tomorrow will be the finale of this series, a Wednesday 1:20 start. That'll be Justin Steele versus Brady Basso for this A's team. And then the Cubs continue this homestand with a 4-game series against Washington, a 6:40 start on Thursday. Javier Assad will be on the mound to face Patrick Corbin of the Washington Nationals. Then the rest of the starts in this series, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, are all those patented 1:20 starts for the North Side. Jameson Taillon, Kyle Hendricks, and Shota Imanaga due up respectively against Mackenzie Gore, and then Irvin and Parker for this Nationals squad. The Nationals are another team that are struggling on the season. They are 68-82. They are 32-43 on the road. So the Cubs are looking to use home field advantage to get some much needed wins and squeak into a wild card spot, because there are only about 12 games left to go. That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 12 games to go for this Cubs team. Things will be ending at the end of September unless they finally find a way into that final wild card spot. Monday, the Cubs will be back on the road for their last road series of the season. That is a 5:40 start against Philadelphia on both Monday and Tuesday of next week. Jordan Wicks, Justin Steele, and then in the final game, it'll be Javier Assad at 5:05 p.m. on Wednesday. The final series of the regular season for the Cubs will be at home against the Cincinnati Reds. 1:20 starts on both Friday and Saturday. Jameson Taillon is listed for the Cubs on that Friday. No pitchers listed for the final 2 games. It may come down to the wire, Cub fans. But that Saturday start at 1:20 will be on ESPN+. The Sunday regular season finale will be at 2:20 p.m. against Cincinnati. All of those other games will be on AM 670 The Score and also on Marquee Sports Network. Let's take a look over at the south side of things because, well, we don't want to, but we have to. But are you sitting down? Because the White Sox just won 3 games in a row. No, it was not a sweep. They only have 1 of those on the season. That's a little too good to be true. However, they did win the final 2 games against the Oakland Athletics, who are, of course, still in town facing the Cubs. And then the last night's first matchup in Los Angeles against the Angels, an 8-4 win. But let's backtrack. It's a little rough, but the White Sox had lost that first game against the Cleveland Guardians when I last left off. That was a 5-3 loss. Well, Tuesday night, they followed that up with a 5-0 shutout loss to the Guardians. And wouldn't you know, the Guardians get the sweep on Wednesday, a 6-4 loss for the White Sox. Davis Martin goes 0-4 after that one. And Friday the 13th was not much better for this White Sox team. They were carrying a 15 straight home loss stat. Longest home loss stat in the MLB into that Friday game against Oakland. Garrett Crochet's on the mound. So as a White Sox fan, you're thinking, okay, this is a perfect time for Garrett Crochet to get back in the win column and for the Sox to get back in the home win column as well. And also just the general win column, because this is a struggling Oakland team. coming into Chicago, tonight is the night. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The White Sox lose 2-0, can't even muster a single run, and they become 33-115 on the season. Ouch. But as of Wednesday, right before that Friday game, there was a stat listed for this White Sox team. And it's not a great stat either. It's, in fact, a stat for the entire AL Central. The AL Central is 38 games under 500. This is as of last Wednesday. The AL Central has 5 teams, and 4 of them are over 500 baseball. That means the White Sox are so incredibly awful this year that they are dragging the rest of the division under 500 with them, single-handedly. Like the reverse Thanos. They'll do it themselves. They'll bring the entire division down. But I say that as of last Wednesday because, of course, they did lose Friday, but they got back into the win column Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Who would have thought? The White Sox go from 33 wins to 36 wins, all in a matter of 3 days. I don't know if the world is ending or what is going on here, but yes, the White Sox take that second game against Oakland 7-6. They almost give it up as they were winning 6-3 in the bottom of the ninth, allowed 3 runs and the Oakland A's to tie it. But it was Andrew Benintendi hitting the walk-off home run to make sure that the Sox finally get a win at home and a win just generally in the column. A 4-3 win on Sunday as the White Sox follow up and take 2 of 3 in this Oakland series. And then they faced the Los Angeles Angels last night with an 8-4 win. And there was a stat going around before yesterday's game that I also want to share with you. It is, of course, 1 game removed now. So the White Sox, this stat says 12 games left, but really there are 11. They need 7 wins, which is now 6 wins, to avoid having the most losses in MLB's modern era. Okay, so that's since 1901, when the White Sox became a team, funny enough. The Angels have 13 games left, 12 now. They need 7 wins still to avoid having the most losses in franchise history. And these 2 teams play each other 6 times, now 5, over the next 2 weeks. So I don't know if this was scripted. No, definitely not. But the fact that this stat is in existence gives you something to be excited for with the White Sox season. And of course, Los Angeles Angels fans as well. Those games are tonight at 8:30 p.m. and tomorrow at 3:07 p.m. Then the White Sox stay on the road out in the West Coast. They have 3 games against the San Diego Padres, who are battling for that wild card spot in the NL. So the White Sox will have a tough opponent there. That's an 8:40 start followed by a 7:40 start on Saturday. I should preface that first game is Friday. The White Sox are off on Thursday. An 8:40 start on Friday, a 7:40 start on Saturday, and a 3:10 start on Sunday. Due up for the White Sox in this series should be Garrett Crochet, Chris Flexen, and then Sean Burke. So he has pitched for the White Sox this year, just started back in that Cleveland series, and then against Oakland, he gets the 4-3 win. So the White Sox testing things out with their starting pitching rotation. Then the White Sox come back home next Tuesday. They are off on Monday. They come back home on Tuesday to face the Los Angeles for those remaining 3 games against this Angels team. 6:40 starts on both Tuesday and Wednesday, and a 1:10 start on Thursday. Due up for the White Sox in this series, Jonathan Cannon, Davis Martin, and Garrett Crochet. The White Sox final series of the season will be in Detroit Friday, September 27th through Sunday, September 29th. Friday is 5:40, Saturday is 12:10, and Sunday is 2:10. Only Chris Flexen listed as the first pitcher for the White Sox in this series. But it should be an interesting end to the season. Will the White Sox hit 120 losses to tie or 121 losses to tie? We'll have to wait and see. On the positive note in baseball right now, the Cougars have advanced to the Wolf Cup Finals in the American Association. Let's give you a little recap of the playoffs. There was, of course, Dogs versus Cleburne Railroaders in that first series. The Dogs took that series 2-1. Meanwhile, the Kane County Cougars were sweeping the Lake Country Dockhounds 2-0. And in the West, it was the Winnipeg Goldeyes versus the Sioux Falls Canaries. Winnipeg takes that series 2-1. The Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks defeated the Sioux City Explorers 2-1. So in round 2, we got a little bit of a Chicagoland quote-unquote crosstown with the Kane County Cougars facing the Chicago Dogs. The Cougars won 5-2 in that first game and then had a 3-2 walk-off win for the Cougars to seal the deal against the Dogs and stay undefeated in the playoffs. Fargo, Moorhead, and Winnipeg played games 1, 2, and 3 in that 3-game series. Winnipeg, they won games 1 and 3, so the Cougars advance, and so do the Goldeyes. Saturday and Sunday were games 1 and 2 at Northwestern Medicine Field in Geneva, Illinois, against the Winnipeg Goldeyes. And the Cougars scored 1 run in the first, and that lead held until the 9th when a run from Winnipeg crossed to tie the game and send things to extra innings. Cornelius Randolph was caught stealing in the 9th when he didn't slide and cost the Cougars the inning and a runner, but he made up for it with the single in the 11th after a properly stolen base from Armand Upshaw put him at second. He was also the hero in the bottom of the 9th in the final game against the Dogs. Upshaw came around to score on that Randolph hit and end the contest 2-1 in 11 frames. And then a little bit of deja vu in game 2. Both teams, though, had a no-hitter going into the 4th until the Cougars scored the lone run in the bottom half of the frame. And Kane County's combined no-hitter lasted until the 9th when 2 hits were given up and a sacrifice bunt put those 2 runners on second and third. But a hit by pitch would load the bases and give Cougars fans a little bit to be nervous about. However, it would also give the Cougars the force out in the Cougars 1-2-3 double play to end the contest and secure both games in nail-biting fashion at home. 1-0 Cougars, 2-0 in the series, and tonight we'll see the series shift to Blue Cross Park in Winnipeg for games 3 and, if necessary, 4 and 5, all 6:30 p.m. starts. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's see what also is going on in sports news tonight.
Back to your home for sports. SportsTownChicago.com. Scoreboard update.
At 5:40 on Tuesday, September 17th, I'm your host, Mike Napolitano, with your SportsTownChicago.com updates powered by the Illinois Media School. If you're interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. The Chicago Sky are in the Gateway Center in College Park, Georgia tonight to face the Atlanta Dream. Chicago is 13-25, but 7-11 on the road. The Dream have an identical 13-25 record and practically identical home record as Chicago's away record. They are 17-12. The Sky took the second and third matchups against Atlanta this year, 85-77 back on July 2nd in Atlanta, and at home 78-69 on July 10th. Dream took the first meeting back on June 8th in Chicago, 89-80, and the Sky will be without their 2 most recent draft picks, Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese. Diamond DeShields is also out for this one as the Sky hope to get back up into the 8th and final playoff spot in the WNBA as they are tied with Washington, but outside of that 8th spot due to head-to-head play with only 2 games remaining, including tonight's matchup. I hope you are sitting down for this one. The White Sox are on a 3-game winning streak going into tonight's game against the Los Angeles Angels. Yes, you heard that right. A 3-game losing streak, or 3-game winning streak, but not a sweep because the first 2 victories on Saturday and Sunday were against the Oakland Athletics, who are staying in town to face the Northsiders now, and then the 8-4 win last night in Game 1 of this 3-game series with the Angels. Game 2 will feature 0-4 Davis Martin versus 5-13 Griffin Canning. Martin has a 4.14 ERA, 39 strikeouts in 41 and a third innings pitched, as well as a 1.35 whip for the South Side. Koenig spots a 3.35 ERA with 117 strikeouts in 156 and a third innings pitched and a 1.41 whip. Sox are starting on NBC Sports Chicago, or you can listen to this one on ESPN 1000 at 8:38 p.m. tonight. This has been your SportsTownChicago.com update brought to you by the Illinois Media School. If you are interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. What's up, everyone? This is Mike Napolitano, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic right here on SportsTownChicago.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
This is your home for sports.
Red left! SportsTownChicago.com.
Take that exit and get to the Southern Cafe, home of the Nasty Biscuit on Roselle Road in Roselle. Get over there and try the chicken fried chicken biscuit made with the Southern Cafe's house-made drop biscuit with buttermilk chicken fried chicken smothered in country gravy, topped with shredded cheddar and crumbled hickory smoked bacon. I always say that when you go to the Southern Cafe, you come out with 2 meals with the heaping amounts of food they serve you in every meal. I love to go to a place with outdoor seating. The Southern Cafe has a great outdoor seating area to help social distance, and I get to enjoy my breakfast outdoors. Open 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. to give you plenty of time to grab an amazing breakfast or lunch. Now get your butt over to the Southern Cafe on Roselle Road.
Hello?
It's speed walking day.
Dorothy? You're breaking up.
Did I mention we'd be slowing down when we pass the court where those fine brothers play ball?
I heard that. Reduce your risk of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Get active, eat right, and maybe even run into Mr. Right. Isn't sisterhood beautiful? For more information, go to everydaychoices.org. Brought to you by the American Cancer Society, the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, the Ad Council, and this station.
Alert! Alert! Be gone, maxed out credit cards, overdue loans, suffocating interest rates, and relentless collection agencies. If your credit rating is making you and others around you cringe, there's only one thing to do, and that's to turn to the professionals at Creative Credit Solutions. Even if your credit is less than perfect, we'll help you get back on track. You can do it, and we can help. Call today or visit creativecreditsolutions.net for your free credit check report.
Blow the whistle on SportsTownChicago.com. Mondays and Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. as we talk NFL.
The game plan was really sound.
The quarterback league. It has been. It still is.
Franchise-defining quarterbacks.
College football.
Will Jim Harbaugh make it through the season as Michigan's head coach?
Some more Big Ten talk.
And here's some things you wouldn't expect.
I would have never expected that.
Get all of that and more on Blow the Whistle on SportsTownChicago.com.
Testing. Is this thing on? Hello? Can you hear me? Guys? Somebody help. Hello?
Now back to Mike on the Mic on SportsTownChicago.com and Twitch. Okay, back in here, we have a little bit of basketball news, but not a whole lot. So this is going to give me a little bit of time to get some stats in that I didn't earlier. So this is out of segment and unlike myself here, but some stats that I wanted to run by you. Do you remember at the start of the season when Caleb Williams sent that text to Tory Taylor, the Bears punter, and he said, "Hey, you're not going to punt too much here." Yeah, well, the Bears have now punted on 55% of their possessions this year. They have 22 possessions, 1 touchdown, the second most punts in the league, 177 yards per game. That is ranked 31st in the league. And they have the league worst 9 sacks allowed. And that last one is last because I think it stands out the most. Of course, the possessions and the punting ties into that text message, but 9 sacks. That's the offensive line right there. Another thing that we didn't get a chance to cover is all of the quotes coming out from the Chicago White Sox this past week. And the White Sox finally admitted that one doubleheader game in which you saw a lot of photos and images of Guaranteed Rate Field being pretty much completely empty, that was 17 fans in the stands. another league record that the White Sox are probably not too happy to have. But former White Sox broadcaster Hawk Harrelson came out and said, quote, "I don't blame the fans for not coming." And you have to agree with him, folks. I mean, this has been atrocious. And how is it going to get better? How is this White Sox team going to improve themselves in the offseason? Well, they're not. Because on the broadcast Friday night, White Sox GM Chris Getz went on and he had a couple of things to say about their offseason plan or lack thereof. Have a listen.
We're not going to be working heavy in free agency. We've got guys out on the field right now that need to improve their game. A lot of these guys are young players and need to make the adjustments to be more productive.
Well, White Sox fans, all of your favorite players from this year are returning next year is basically what Chris Getz is saying. They're not going to work heavy in free agency, meaning they're not going to go and spend money in free agency. They're not going to go and pick anybody up in free agency. So get ready for another 100+ loss season for this White Sox team. Okay, before I get too far into angry mode at this White Sox team, let's switch gears into basketball. That would have been our Bulls segment, so fitting that we were talking about similar Bulls ownership and how they do nothing, just like they do in the NBA offseason. So the only news we have in basketball is the Chicago Sky. And we left off with the Sky in that 8th and final playoff spot going into the last 5 or 6 games of the season, 5 to be exact. That was last Wednesday against the Washington Mystics, the team that was right on the Sky's tail in that playoff race. Unfortunately, the Sky fall 89-58 in this one. Of course, they are without Angel Reese, but it was Carter that put up the most points in this one with 16. Camilo Cardoso had the high in rebounds with 8, but it wasn't enough for the Chicago team. Then they played on Friday the 13th. And didn't end up the way they wanted it either. Of course, this was a tough Minnesota Lynx team, and they were in Minnesota, but an 83-66 loss. This would be the last game that you see Cardoso's stat pop up on the stat sheet, as she was injured as well. So the top 2 stars basically for this Chicago Sky team out when it matters most, and they're trying to hold on to that final 8th seed in the WNBA. Sunday, they were back at home to face the Phoenix Mercury. This was a 93-88 loss. At least the Sky got into the 80s region of points again after posting 58 and 66. You can't win when you only put up those numbers. Unfortunately, they gave up 93 and a 3-game losing streak for this Chicago Sky team. That brings them into the final 2 games of the season, and they are actually tied for that 8th and final spot in the WNBA standings with the Washington Mystics. Both teams are 13-25. In fact, the Atlanta Dream are also 13-25. That just so happens to be the team that the Sky are facing tonight at 6:30. The Sky are above the Dream due to head-to-head play. However, that can change quickly, as this is the 4th and final matchup between the 2 teams, and the Sky have won 2. The Dream have won 1. This is game 4. So if the Dream tie things up, I believe it goes to the tiebreaker rules would be then their home record or away record. I have to brush myself up on those stats. It may even be points against and then points for. However, none of that is going to matter unless one of these 2 teams can pass up the Washington Mystics. As I mentioned, they are all tied, and because of head-to-head records, the Mystics are in that 8th and final seed. Now, the first 7 seeds in the WNBA have been clinched. You have the New York Liberty in first, Minnesota Lynx, also your President's Cup or Commissioner's Cup trophy winners this year. The Connecticut Sun are in 3rd, the Las Vegas Aces in 4th, the Seattle Storm in 5th, the Indiana Fever in 6th, and the Phoenix Mercury in 7th. So this 8th spot, the only thing up for grabs. And all eyes are on these final 3 teams that we are talking about, Washington, Chicago, and Atlanta, because those other teams have clinched. Sure, the seeding can get jumbled around a little bit going into these final games. But when we look outside of the playoffs, the Dallas Wings and the Los Angeles Sparks were eliminated as of last week. So the only teams fighting off elimination are also the teams tied and looking at that 8th seed in the WNBA. After tonight's game, Thursday is the final game of the regular season for the Sky. They will be playing the 27-11 Connecticut Sun, who, as I mentioned, are sitting in 3rd place. So it is not going to be easy for the Sky. Get your wins where you can. Defeat Atlanta tonight. Maybe reclaim that 8th seed. And then if you have to lose and go 14-26 on the season, you just hope that Washington and Atlanta lose as well. And you can finally get into that 8th seed that you had 2 weeks ago, and even last week, but slowly slipped out of it. And it's going to be tough with injuries, of course, as well. All right. Well, talking about injuries, there are some injuries as far as Blackhawks prospects that didn't participate in this past weekend's Tom Curvers Prospect Showcase. However, training camp will be starting this week for the Blackhawks, which means those injuries are going to have to subside, and we're going to get Blackhawks hockey pretty soon. I have your hockey news right here for you on Mike on the Mic.
This is your home for sports.
Longtime fans, sports is like life. SportsTownChicago.com.
What's up, Chicago? If you're ever, and I mean ever, out looking for good urban food 24/7, come down to White Palace Grill, located 1159 South Canal Street in Chicago. White Palace Grill is open 365 days a year since 1939. I personally love the steak and egg dinner, but whether you like burgers for breakfast, steak for lunch, or French toast for dinner, White Palace is the place for you. The diner is a 24-hour urban oasis. Come now, come later. Hey, come now and later. We never close at White Palace Grill, located 1159 South Canal Street in Chicago. Visit us at whitepalace.com or order with Uber Eats or Grubhub anytime, any day.
Daddy, when you look at me, I could see your wheels turning. About what am I going to be when I grow up? A major league first baseman? Maybe a point guard for a national champ.
The odds of a child becoming a professional athlete are 1 in 16,000. Far-fetched? Maybe. But did you know the odds of a child being diagnosed with autism are 1 in 166? That's right, 1 in 166. To learn the signs of autism, go to autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Go to Lux Barbershop for the best barbers and stylists in Plainfield, Illinois. I go there when I have an important event, date, or I just want to look good. The straight razor shave will have you looking fresh and smooth. Lux Barbershop is open 7 days a week. Go to Lux Barbershop for the finest barbers, stylists, braiders, and massage therapists in the southern suburbs. Check out all their daily deals on Facebook, Instagram, and luxbarbershop.com.
Hi, this is Joe Perry and Steven Tyler of Aerosmith for Red. You know, it's okay to rock and roll and party down. Just don't get in that 2,000-pound bullet when you're done and cocked. And please don't drink and drive. I'm the one that jaded you.
A reminder that friends don't let friends drive drunk. A public service message brought to you by the Ad Council, U.S. Department of Transportation, National Association of Broadcasters, and RAD.
The Chicago Dogs are back on SportsTownChicago.com. Tune in to the season opener against the Sioux City Explorers, Friday, May 28th at Impact Field in Rosemont. First pitch at 7:05 p.m. Hear all the action right here on SportsTownChicago.com.
All right, we have a little bit of hockey news over the weekend, and we have to start out with the good news. Yes, we have good news. Chicago Sports Network is the new sports channel coming to Chicago and set to debut this fall for Blackhawks hockey and Bulls basketball. The studio already announced that studio talent such as Kendall Gill and Jason Goff for the Bulls, Ozzie Guillen and Chuck Garfien for the Chicago White Sox, and Pat Boyle for the Chicago Blackhawks will be returning, but many Blackhawks fans were concerned that Blackhawks insider Charlie Roumeliotis was not signed back up. Well, have no fear, Blackhawks fans. Chicago will not be losing Roumeliotis like they did with Joe Brand. In fact, Roumeliotis will be joining WGN to fill a similar role that Brand had in his time here in Chicago. Congrats to Brand on his new radio play-by-play position covering the Pittsburgh Penguins. And congratulations to Charlie Roumeliotis on his new position with WGN. The nice thing is I don't have to turn off my tweet alerts for Charlie Roumeliotis. He'll still be covering the Blackhawks. And he did this past weekend as the Blackhawks were out in St. Louis to face both the Blues and the Minnesota Wild prospects as they had their fun in the Tom Curvers Prospect Showcase. Unfortunately, Blackhawks fans were eager to see Artem Levshunov, the second overall pick for Chicago this past year. Well, actually, in the 2024 draft, I say this past off season. However, Levshunov got hit with a puck in the foot, and he was held out of this prospect camp, which is good. You know, you don't want to see a guy, continue to re-injure his foot like that. I don't think it's going to be anything serious. From what it sounds like, it's just going to keep him out of that and maybe some of training camp. But, I think Blackhawks fans were looking to have him on the ice as soon as possible and get an early look at him. The Blackhawks lost and won over the weekend, and we will get into that. They had their game Friday night against the Blues and then Saturday against the Wild. They fell, I believe it was 4-3. I'm looking that stat up right now for you here. And using Charlie Roumeliotis, yes, 4-3 in overtime after a puck squirted through goaltender Drew Comesso and in. Definitely one that he's going to want to have back. But we saw a couple of really cool goals. AJ Spellacy, former football player turned hockey player, scores his first unofficial goal with Chicago to make it 2-1. Frank Nazar had set up Nick Lardis, who buried the first goal of the game. Paul Ludwinski found Landon Slaggert. So a lot of names that you heard towards the end of the Blackhawks season already hot out of the gates in this prospect camp. Although Sam Savoie he had went into the locker room in overtime. It looked like he was showing the trainers his hand, and after he got injured last year in preseason, you don't want to see that happen again. And hopefully he is okay. Then the Blackhawks played the Wild on Saturday night. I believe this was a win. Frank Nazar scored the power play goal that put the Blackhawks tied with the Wild after the Wild had a 1-0 win. And then it was Gavin Hayes scoring on the power play. And then I believe that was, yes, a 4-2 win for Chicago. Sorry, catching myself up after a crazy weekend. But a 4-2 win against the Minnesota Wild prospects for Chicago was quite the physical game from what I heard. I didn't get a chance to watch that one. But training camp starts this week, so we will get to see the Blackhawks on the ice in Chicago a little bit more here for that full training camp schedule. Thursday, September 19th, will be the first practice at Fifth Third Arena at 10 a.m. Friday, another 10 a.m. start at Fifth Third Arena at 10 a.m. again on Saturday. Sunday will be a scheduled off day. Monday, September 23rd, another 10 a.m. practice. Tuesday, another 10 a.m. practice. And then we will get you into some of the more preseason games. That next Wednesday will be their first preseason game at home against Detroit. But then they have a couple of interesting game group and non-game group practices, so it'll get a little confusing, and we will cover that next week here on Mike on the Mic. But another important note, 11 a.m. on Thursday this week, also at Fifth Third Arena, Kyle Davidson will have his media availability, so the Blackhawks GM will answer questions. I'm sure following most of the practices Friday and Saturday, you will get a chance to hear from Blackhawks prospects through the media as well. but it should be a very interesting camp. You saw the prospects this past weekend. That didn't include Connor Bedard. He is no longer a prospect. He played a full year despite that time he was out with injury with the Blackhawks last year. So he's not a prospect, but we will get to see him in this training camp. So I'm eager to see what the Blackhawks have up their sleeve. All right, that is everything you need to know for Chicago sports news this week. We're going to get into more free agency for hockey next week and talk about some more preseason notes for this Blackhawks team. But don't forget to check out the Voodoo podcast. I've been mentioning that the August episode is out now and features Fluffy, a.k.a. Jeff Walker of Zombie Army Productions. We talked about his time at Statesville, Hell's Gate, and more. You can catch that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And then if you want more sports news, including all the stuff that we talked about today, WRMN AM 1410, the Derek and I have a show covering all the pro amateur sports on Saturday mornings. It is called On the Rise from 8 to 10 a.m. In fact, this Saturday, we will be on the radio for 4 hours straight, 2 hours doing that show, and then 2 hours doing the Chicago sports talk that our buddy Marcus usually does. So you'll get 2 hours of pro amateur sports, followed by 2 hours of pro sports. So everything you like getting covered here and more. So tune into that one. We cover Boomers, Cougars, AU softball, Ice Hogs, Wolves, Steel, Windy City Bulls, fantasy sports, and more. You can check out the Divided podcast with Tilo, G-Lead, the Derek, and myself this past episode. That's on Spotify, where you can also find the Parlay. That is Tilo and Kendall Gill. That's also on YouTube. That is a boxing podcast. And don't forget to follow myself, Mike Napolitano, on X, Instagram, and Snapchat. That's Mike Napolitano on X. Mike_Napolitano on Instagram. Mike Napolitano 5 on Snapchat. And you can follow SportsTownChicago.com and the Illinois Media School on X and Instagram as well. But that is all of your Chicago sports news for the week. Be sure to make it back here next Tuesday at 5 p.m. for another episode. The video stream is up and working again. This is great. I'm your host, Mike Napolitano. Thank you again for tuning in. This has been another edition of Mike on the Mic.
This is your home for sports.
This is the best fans in the world.
No better team. SportsTownChicago.com.
Are you ready for this? Valley View Automotive has all of the hottest SUVs you've been looking for. Enjoy a test drive and the opportunity to drive one of these powerful vehicles off the lot for half the price. Yes, half the price. Now's the time to get yourself to Valley View by car, on foot, or even by air to take advantage of this outrageous sale. You better get here quickly, because this promotion is only going on for 24 hours, and the automobiles are leaving the lot faster than you can say four-wheel drive. Valley View Automotive, a dealership you can depend on.
Hey, I'm Andy Griggs, asking you to help prevent domestic violence. Domestic violence isn't a woman's issue. It hurts all of us. Women are injured and killed every day by their husbands and boyfriends. So it's time for men to take action right now to teach boys that violence against women is wrong, to help prevent abuse before it starts. Call the Family Violence Prevention Fund at 1-800-END-ABUSE to get a free Take Action kit containing tips on what to say to boys. That's 1-800-END-ABUSE. Teach early.
Indeed is the #1 job search user with over 250 million monthly users. Indeed's priority is to help everyone in the job searching process to find a job by uploading 10 new job opportunities every 10 seconds worldwide. With Indeed, you have free access to job searches, resume uploads, and company researches. There are over 10,000 employees at Indeed that pursue to help people find the job they are looking for. They connect with millions of people to new opportunities. Go to Indeed.com and sign up for free and create a resume and let Indeed do the rest to help you on your job search.
Hey, I'm Jesus Mauricio. Be sure to tune in every Friday to listen to Zeus Off the Bat, a baseball talk show from 1 to 2 p.m. where I'll be discussing and updating you on all things about baseball. News, predictions, reactions, and more about the Cubs, Sox, and everything across the league. Happens every Friday at 1 p.m. right here on SportsTownChicago.com. Don't forget to follow and share our Twitter and Instagram with your friends at Zeus Off the Bat. Zeus Off the Bat.